There you go. Only took us, what, 17 minutes.
Well, on the plus side, Joe's here now that you waited all this time.
That's all we were doing, is just waiting for Joe.
I was trying to be punctual.
Waiting for the real meeting to start.
Should we start with our updates? IC platform first.
Yeah, so let's see, for on the platform side, really, there's been a primary focus on PAC. We have the Google Summer of Code mentorship still happening for the cache flag implementation. So we've got a good majority of that work done and working to finalize some of that. From there, we'll create a sort of like blog post or whatnot to try to promote that aspect of things. Other than that, we resolved a couple of CI issues. It's been a while now, but we did move one of our custom runners to GitHub Runner. Natalie, thank you for that. And let's see, working on improving acceptance test. That seems to still be one of the major hindrances to contributors that are coming on board to the project. So trying to see what we can do there to simplify some of that stuff. I think that's pretty much it at this point.
For implementation, we have this long-running open track of work for shell removal and overridable arguments that Mikey was driving for the light. Pick that up and put up a PR for it. But as I was reading over it, going back and looking at the spec and then going back and looking at the life cycle to see what we're actually delivering here, I question whether there's value in shipping the build pack side of things, like without the platform side of things. Is you're basically doing a bunch of work to keep everything the same. So I opened a Slack thread about that. So just bringing that up. On the Docker files side of things, I know last working group, I kind of surfaced the issue that registry creds are readable by Docker files when you use Conico because there's no chroot. And we kind of talked about different things that are happening on the Conico side. There's an open PR that would implement a chroot-like capability, but with more minor tweaks to your permission settings than like actual chroot. I did ask Stephen about that, and his kind of opinion was you should do whatever you can to avoid messing with the, like container settings at all, right? And I had this idea for a very complicated workaround that would basically not require registry creds because all of the images would be placed on the file system, beforehand by the platform. So I'm working through things. I have a couple of options. Build image extension is easier, so we can, probably ship that first. More to come here. And then also around Docker files and extensions, open questions about how rebase will work. I know we had some discussion a couple working groups ago, and we talked about it briefly yesterday at the KPAC working group. I have some questions, but like my fundamental question is whether we can actually go ahead and merge the RFC, given that there's this outstanding uncertainty and there will be more uncertainty. Like as the further we go in the implementation, there will be more questions, I'm sure. But we're now in like this chicken and egg situation where we can't we have to merge the RFC before we can merge the spec, before we can ship the first phase, before we can uncover questions that might go back to the RFC, and it's like a little bit of a mess there. So I wanted to open that up for questions. That is all that I have right now.
The questions, should those be things that are added to the agenda for this
Yeah,
meeting?
we could add them to the agenda or to the working group. I actually can't make the working group tomorrow. interestingly, I'm doing a live stream like show with Whitney Lee, who's a VMware employee and also a creator of content, describing various open source projects. And I agreed to talk to her about build packs. So I'm doing that tomorrow, and therefore I can't make the working group.
Nice. Is it an introduction to build packs, or is it? It is? Okay.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I'm actually like, she assures me it will be fine, but it's like giving a talk, but you don't prepare anything beforehand, and you just go and she's like, tell me about build packs, and she kind of like draws it out as we go to. So she's like, don't worry, it'll be fine. I'm like, okay.
The tweet video looks really cool with her writing all the stuff on the thing.
Yeah. So we'll see. I'm excited for the dialogue part of it. Like, tell me more about this. Oh, well, let me shed some color on this thing that like we always say in talks, but like, here's why you should really care about it. So we'll see.
I retweeted something on that, but let me know if there's anything you want me to post.
Sounds good. That team?
I think the general implementation of profile build pack is done and merged. One of the things that came up was the profile script is now being run twice, because lifecycle obviously runs it and the build pack is now trying to run it. So we are just waiting for build pack 09, and we'll set that as the minimum value, because we're assuming that once lifecycle supports build pack 09, it will remove the support for sourcing the profile script in the application directory. At that point, it will just run it once.
Shouldn't it be dependent on what platform API is being used, though?
Build packs don't get access to platform API variables unless we want to change that. Yeah, I thought about it as well, but yeah.
The launcher can inspect the build pack API, right? And deciding whether to source a profile.
But it's like one build pack amongst, I don't know how many build packs that has provided that execd script. It's like at some point, lifecycle will just have to remove that and say move to this build pack. And if you bump to that version of the lifecycle and you want to preserve the app profile D functionality, you will have to use that build pack.
That makes sense. I feel like it's okay. It's like once there's a new API where it's removed and pack supports the new API, and you'll have the life cycle that supports the new API. It'll cut over. And if you want to be using an old platform API on a different platform, you can make a builder. You don't need to use that build pack, right? You have control over what's in the builder. So I think it's okay.
I'm sorry, I'm still lost. Could you say it again a different way? I'm just trying to figure out what, like, we need to actually change. If we were to ship just the build pack side of things, like I think Jesse's PR right now doesn't actually touch the launcher, right? And
yeah, so that's again something we should talk about, but I think there's like the profile D removal, and there are other changes we also made as part of that to change how input arguments are interpreted. Got nothing to do with profile D, just how input arguments to the process are interpreted. I think it's valid to ship those launcher changes. So like if you're running a build pack process contributed by a new build pack API version, which has used the new process type to interpret the arguments the new way, only if you're doing launcher hyphen or like running a direct launcher process. That's where the breakage happens. Breakage doesn't happen on the build pack API side of things. Like if you're using the launcher through a build pack provided process, then it's up to the build pack to control and interpret the arguments however it wants to. The double hyphens were never part of the build pack process contract. They were part of invoking the launcher directly. So a build pack can still, like if it chooses to move to the new build pack API, that's something that they've opted into. And that's like something that they can deal with on their side. Like,
But then wouldn't the user running the process like need to know if it's like?
yeah, but then it's a new build pack version, right? Like whoever has bumped up the build pack API version would have knowingly said, I am bumping this build pack version, and this is the new behavior that the process contributed by this build pack has. Whereas switching the launcher is not something the build pack author can control. It's not like it's potentially not even something that the builder creator can control. It's like whatever the version of the life cycle that is being used by the platform during the invocation controls. So it's different levels, right? Like if I've opted into this build pack, I can clearly communicate like this is what the behavior would be. And that's exactly how it would be regardless of which platform you're using it on. Whereas if you're changing the life cycle, then it's like, okay, pack, if you use an older version of the lifecycle with pack, the launcher might behave differently. If you use a new version, it might behave differently, and there's no error or difference.
So then, as an end user, I need to, like, I know when I'm starting like my web process, the args are appended, but when I'm starting this other process that was built with a newer build pack, the args are overridden. Like this is something you'd have to know.
Yeah, but that you can communicate as the build pack owner, right? Like whoever is the end user is using a set of build packs from someone or a builder from someone. And like the point is that it shouldn't depend on which version of pack or lifecycle they have locally. It should depend on the build packs and builder that they're using. So I, as the builder owner or the build pack owner, can control what the behavior would be rather than whatever platform you're running it on.
I see. I think the spec PR is maybe wrong then, because it basically says that the behavior of the arguments is totally dependent on the platform API. It's like the platform either supports overridable arguments or it doesn't. Yeah, we should.
Yeah. I can explain like the motivation on why that launcher change was a breaking change versus why this build pack change will still be fine, maybe in the working group. The build pack API release will definitely be useful. Like I can explain why. It's not throwaway work.
Okay, thank you.
On the back team side, yeah, so I was going through the profile build pack, but the other thing is I was playing with this idea of declarative integration testing because I was just tired of writing those tests myself. So there's this library called Venom, which is also used by Occam and Paketo, but I took a slightly different approach to that. Just wanted to share it if someone is looking into it. Works with any language, declare a YAML file and write integration tests for your build packs. And that's it.
From the learning team side, We threw out 3 new documents. One overview of build pack phases on buildpacks.io/docs. Another one that does have a bit of a bug in it on caching strategies, but I'll fix that before next week. And then I don't know if I said it last week, but we landed the videos on buildpacks.io. So yeah, that's pretty cool.
Nice.
So an old colleague of mine who works at Docker now reached out to me the other day, and they want to restart conversations about getting build packs into the Docker CLI, what we had started before. So I told him I'm traveling this week, and I was going to try and set up something next week. So I'm wondering if y'all, I told him I should bring some like team leads and stuff like that. So I was wondering what time works. Like, should we hijack this meeting? I think he's central. I don't know who else will join, but yeah, what do y'all think would work?
I'm curious as to what sort of integration point we're thinking about or they're thinking about, and maybe that could start.
Yeah, he didn't give me any details. So from that I gather that they're like pretty open to what we're thinking, which might be nothing. But yeah, I mean, to me the big thing is like, how do you know you want build packs? And I think it kind of circles back to like Pack Toml or Project Toml or something like that. So I don't know. I think we had some good ideas in the past. So maybe there's something we can dig up.
Yeah, because I think the two that come to my mind real quick are the Docker CLI specific like extensions or plugins. Like that's one route, but that's like just a separate binary that people would install or come out of the box, whatever, right? Then there's the front end for the build kit Docker files, which is a more integrated method, but I think we still have some technical challenges that we haven't really solved for that.
There's a third one as well for Docker Desktop, not for Docker CLI. I don't know if that is also covered under this or if it's just Docker CLI.
CLI is my words.
Okay.
Let me see how he phrased it.
Because if it's Docker Desktop, then
he said as a Docker extension, build packs extension. I don't know if that means something technical.
So
that's a new thing for the Docker Desktop.
Yeah, there's a Docker Desktop extensions thing that's recently come out, which is like a GUI thing that shows up in Docker Desktop, and you can add essentially a web app there that you can use to add enhancements to Docker. So like you can have something that says like browse a folder and then show the build process.
So he may not be talking about as native of an integration as we were talking about before.
Yeah, extensions are still like third party. Same for like whether it's like a Docker Desktop extension or a Docker CLI plugin, they're all third party.
Yeah, makes sense.
I'm gonna go ahead and just in the document that we have, list out the 3 options that we have for anybody that's curious, and then we kind of take it from there as well.
Do you know if he wants this to be public or private in the meeting?
He didn't say.
I'll
ask him.
Because if he doesn't want it recorded, then I would potentially not recommend doing it maybe during this meeting unless we're just killing.
Yeah, well, if we did, I would have we could also just reschedule over it. Like we don't have to actually use this meet.
Because the other option is just to start in the second half of the meeting, where that in theory is private, and then we can make sure to actually end on time.
Yeah, I'll probably suggest that to start unless anybody else thinks.
I don't expect a learning team meeting next week as I'm away, so you could use that time slot either.
Yeah, we've typically used the office hours for such meetings.
Yeah, that was gonna be my other suggestion.
Yeah, if he doesn't mind it being public discussion, I'll suggest that.
I mean, all of our meetings are public except like all of our meetings are public, and this is open source stuff. So
Except
Yeah,
the
I
meeting
mean,
that we're
like,
supposed to be in
I-
now.
If they want to have like a private conversation, we can just schedule it over a time slot that we.
I'm interested. Seems like a good way to reach a new audience. So we should schedule a meeting however they want to do it.
Says,
Yep, I'll keep you
says the
posted.
person without any meetings.
Yeah, I was gonna say my schedule is wide open, but I just need a lot of warning because otherwise I might be at the beach, you know.
I kind of picture you as that what's the Narcos guy? Where he's like standing in the pool and he's looking all somber.
I have no idea what you're
Come on,
talking
nobody-
about.
Pablo Escobar looking like
Pablo Escobar standing like he's sitting on the swing and then he's standing in the pool, just kind of staring glumly.
And why do I remind you of Pablo Escobar?
You have nothing to do.
Okay. I'm gonna choose to take that as a compliment, even though I don't totally understand it. On that note, is it time to wrap this meeting up?
Only after you see the image I just posted.
But first you have to watch all 3 seasons of the show to understand the context for that.
True.
All right, I guess I have homework now.
Anything else before we close this?
Anything for the working group?
I was gonna say, I don't think we set the agenda for that, did we?
Do we want to talk about, I guess, the launcher build pack stuff that we're discussing without Natalie?
Oh. I also wanted to talk about KPAC.
without Natalie.
Well,
Yeah.
I think she just
KPAC
said-
rebase
Yeah,
with extensions.
yeah. I think both of those things require you, Natalie. So
Yeah.
I would do that.
Any quick opinions on whether we can merge the Docker files RFC?
I mean, there are no opinions. There's the rule of the law, which is once you have the required approvals and your desire, you can merge it. So
Can I ask, so I don't even know what process we're in right now, but Terrence is the assignee on that RFC. Can Terrence do it? Should I just do it? What do we even do now? Oh, we have to run that script, right? Okay.
Yeah, I think according, I'm assuming we're still in the old process, but I think it's approved by either process, so we can just follow the merge script.
Okay.
Yeah.
Terrence, do you have bandwidth to do that, or do you want me to do it?
I'll let you run with it because you're leading the charge on basically all that stuff anyways.
All right, I will merge it. Great. Great.